Hi there, I'm so glad you're here. This is Gina from McGuire. Today I have a shorter share for you. This video is shorter than most of mine, and it features a card with a spotlight coloring technique. Now I'll be honest, I kind of struggled my way through this card because I was trying to do it pretty quickly. My son didn't feel good and I knew he was coming straight home from school instead of going to baseball, and I wanted to have this done so I could be with him when he got home. So you'll see me make some changes and fix some things along the way. Do know this is normal for crafters, even those of us who do YouTube videos, we just normally edit it out. But let's get started. For this card, I am using a die from the Gina K Designs Master Layouts 11 die set. It has all the dies that you see here. I have done a video with lots of ideas using this set. I will link to it up here in the top right and at the end of this video and in my description below. I will be using that window die there on the left. You could use any window die or even really any shape die you want. I'll talk about that more later. I will also be using the new Gina K Designs Blue Violet stamp set. I thought these images were beautiful. I am using the floral and the bird, but do note that there are great sentiments in this set and coordinating dies that go with those sentiments. Let's do our stamping. I have my MISTI stamping tool along with the sticky mat to hold my cardstock in place as I stamp. Now I have a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of white cardstock I'm placing inside, and then I'll take that window die. Now this die only has cutting edges on these inside rectangles. That metal around the outside doesn't do any cutting. It's just there so you can easily line it up on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece. I'm just laying the die there so I can get the positioning of this floral image just right. I want it to be to the left bottom corner, and so I just made sure that it lined up nicely in those windows. All right, so I removed that die, and now I am stamping with Gina K Designs Obsidian Black Amalgam ink. This is my go-to ink whenever I want to do any kind of coloring, Copic, watercolor, colored pencils, anything. Now I have another piece of white cardstock cut to the same size, and I'm laying it directly on the piece we just stamped. I could have removed that piece from the sticky mat and placed this one in place, but this seemed easy enough. Onto this piece, I'm stamping the same image in the same spot, but using a light gray ink. This is Gina K Designs Amalgam ink, which is like a warm gray. I love it. We want some sort of subtle ink here. A light blue would have been nice too. So now I have two pieces with the same image stamped in the same place, one with black ink, one with light gray ink. Okay, now let's stamp our bird and also our sentiments. Again, I'm stamping with that same black amalgam ink from Gina K Designs. Not only is this ink great for coloring of any type of medium, it's also a dark black ink, so it's great for stamping your sentiments too, as I'm doing here. This is the new Gina K Designs Positive Greetings stamp set. It's a great large set with lots of greetings. I like the classic style of these sentiments, so they work on a variety of card styles. I also appreciate that this set has lots of unique words in it, so I'll use the outstanding for this one, along with the small words that say you are. I placed the you are up in the top corner of my cardstock so that I could stamp that and then cut it easily into a sentiment strip. But after I stamped it, I realized I over-inked my stamp. I pressed it too hard for that tiny little stamp. So I'm just going to shift my cardstock over, stamp it again, and I'll still be able to cut this newer image out with easy precision because it's cut right along the side of the cardstock. So this is a reminder, if you have a small sentiment like this you are, you want to stamp that lightly. If you press it too hard, it kind of smushes out a bit. Let's go ahead and cut that you are off of the edge of the cardstock, and then I will just cut the ends and we have a tiny little sentiment strip that'll go nicely with the word outstanding. Now the word outstanding itself, I'll save for later. We're going to use a coordinating die to cut that out, but right now I need to do some coloring. Because I'll be coloring these outline images, I like to heat set that ink and make sure it is super dry before I start the coloring process. That will make sure that my images stay nice and crisp and we won't have any bleeding. Now, I'm not sharing the coloring in this video. First, I was in a hurry, so I didn't do great coloring. Second, I'm trying to keep this video a little bit shorter, so I think leaving it out is best. However, all I did was basic coloring with Copic markers and OLO markers, but you could use any coloring medium you want. I'll share some other options at the end of this video. By the way, that light gray stamped image we did before, that's set to the side. I didn't color that one. Now I'm taking this window die, lining it up on my cardstock piece, and then I'll run this through my die cut machine. This will create a window piece and 4 small rectangles. I will also die cut the bird using the coordinating die and cut the word outstanding using the coordinating die. By the way, that floral piece I'm cutting with a window die, but you could do like a circle, a rectangle, a heart, any shape you want. We're going to create a spotlight with that shape. After die cutting, you'll see I have this window frame and then the 4 small rectangles. I'm not going to use the window frame on this card, but you definitely could use it, line it up with another stamped gray image like this, and add a sentiment. However, I'll save that frame for another card. I'm just going to use the 4 colored rectangles. We're going to line this up with the stamping on the light gray piece, but I really want to make the rectangle shape stand out. And the best way I thought to do that would be to color the background. And I thought I'd use a really bold ink here. If you want a softer looking card, you could definitely use a lighter ink here. This is B69, which is a nice bright blue, one of my favorite colors. And I'm coloring around the image. It's pretty easy to do. When you use a permanent marker like the Copic marker here, you just color on it back and forth quite a bit, which really saturates the paper, and it keeps you from seeing like scribble lines that you normally would get with markers. But you could do watercolor here, colored pencils, whatever your favorite medium is. Now, after I color the background, all of the white area, on these 4 rectangles, I'm coming in with an even darker marker, this is B79, and just tracing around the outline of the stamping, just to kind of make it stand out more, define the edges, and give a little look of a shadow. Again, I am not an expert at coloring. Using markers, really any kind of coloring, isn't something that I'm strong at or really love doing. So I try to do the process as quick as possible and use little shortcuts when I can. Because this is just 4 rectangles here, coloring the background really doesn't take very long. After coloring my 4 small rectangles here, making sure no white is showing, it's time to add them to our card. However, I wanted dimension behind them so they would stand out even more for the spotlight technique. So I used that same window frame die, and I cut extra white cardstock pieces from scraps. I'm gluing 3 of these rectangles behind our colored ones just to give them dimension. You could instead use craft foam or foam tape here if you prefer. Before I glue these stacked 4 rectangle die cuts onto our background, I thought I'd go ahead and glue this panel onto a note card. So this is the panel where we stamped with the light gray ink. And I'm gluing it onto a note card of the same size, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I could have done this light gray stamping directly onto the front of the note card. I just didn't think of it at the time. To make sure that I glue my 4 rectangles onto this background so that the stamping lines up, I'm grabbing that negative space piece. That's the frame here, and I'm just holding it on the front of my card. It's not glued there. I'm just holding it there. Into the openings of that frame, I'm putting some strong adhesive and then placing each of those stacked rectangle die cuts into the opening. So that negative space window shape, that's just there as a template to make sure that I get these glued in the right spot. By doing this, I know the stamping on these colored rectangles will line up with the light gray stamping on the background. This creates a spotlight look. Now I'll put something heavy on this while it dries. Once I'm sure that glue is dry, I will carefully remove that window die cut. Remember, I'm going to save that for a future card. I just needed it as a template. And now we have our spotlight technique where we have a continuous floral image with light gray stamping on the background, but bold stamping and coloring on those 4 raised areas. So in full disclosure, this is where I almost gave up. I tried to do something with the bird. It didn't work. I was getting frustrated, trying to move too fast. I should have walked away, but I was determined on this particular day to finish it. So let me show you how I ended up finishing it. Now for the bird, I had used the coordinating die to cut it out, but I decided to go ahead and trim around the stamp image right up to the outline of the bird, everywhere except those feet. I didn't want to have to cut around the feet. So what I did is just colored the white that was remaining around the image on the die cut with the blue marker that I used on my background. That way, when I glue it to my card, it kind of blends in better. I originally had that white trim on this bird and it just didn't look good on top of the spotlight stamping. So by cutting up nice and close, I felt like the bird blended in better. And by skipping that trimming around the feet, I saved a lot of time and energy. I just colored it blue to match the background. I also felt like the light gray stamping on the background got lost a bit, so I wanted to make it stand out more. And I thought that would be best done by putting this card front onto a light gray note card. Now this is already a card, right? But I'm just going to cut it up. I do this often when I change my mind. That part we cut off on the back of the note card, I can save for something else. I'm cutting my card front down to be about 4 by 5¼ inches. And then I'll create a new note card from Gina K Whisper Cardstock, which is a nice light warm gray cardstock that will match that light gray Whisper stamping that we did in the background and help it to stand out a little bit more. So again, this is Gina K Whisper Cardstock, a great warm gray color. I'm scoring it right down the middle at 5½ inches. I will then fold that in half, reinforce the score line, and then I will fold it in half the other way at 4¼ inches. Now I have 2 top folding note cards and I'll save one for a future card. Now I will glue that panel that we cut off right onto the front of the light gray note card. And I just feel that that little bit of gray on the outside makes the spotlight stamping stand out even more. And I decided to take that leftover cardstock that I cut off, trim it down a bit, and add that to the inside for a place for personal message. But you'll see later, I changed my mind again. And at this point, I was unsure about that outstanding sentiment. I thought it might be too big. So I thought I would try out the Hello from the Scripty Quartet die set from Gina K. This is a great die set. It has the words hello, for, you, and birthday. And it has the shadow dies to go with it. I love sets like this. I thought I'd try hello so it would cover up less of the flowers in the background, but decided I really liked that outstanding better. The outstanding does cover up more of the flowers, but I really felt like the bird and the sentiment were really supposed to be the stand out elements of the card, so I went with it. This happens to me a lot where I'm kind of indecisive about what I'm going to use or do, and I find it usually happens when I'm trying to hurry too fast. So it's really would have been better for me to kind of step aside, take some time away from the card, but I was determined at this point. As for the UR sentiment strip, I did glue additional scraps of thin white cardstock behind it so that it has a little dimension, so it matches up with the outstanding sentiment, which has additional die cuts behind it for dimension also. I thought a bit of sparkle would be fun, but I didn't want to distract any more from everything going on in this card. There's a lot here. So I chose some gemstones that match the same color of the background there. So these are blue gemstones on a blue background. So they aren't distracting, but they do provide a bit of sparkle when you tilt the card. At this point, I thought I was done with the card, but when I opened it up and it was plain white cardstock on the inside, I had an idea. Instead of having plain white cardstock for writing my personal message there, I thought it'd be fun to stamp that same floral image with that same light gray ink, and then I can write my personal message right on top of it. I do this a lot. I tear up my cards. I carefully tore this white cardstock piece from the inside. Yes, there are other ways to remove it, but this is just what was fastest at the time. And I am gluing in a new panel that has that image stamped with the Whisper light gray ink. Now this really pulls everything together even better. And I'll just use a black pen when I write my personal message. Because that ink is very light colored on the inside, it should be no problem. Now here's a closer look at that spotlight technique. So we have a continuous floral image, but we have those spotlight areas where we have that bold blue color, and it has some dimension behind it so it stands out even more. If you don't have a window die to cut 4 areas like that, you can use a small rectangle and cut it 4 times, or just do one large area for spotlight, like a circle, oval, rectangle, or heart. Now I ran out of time to make more cards. My son was home, time to spend some time with him, but I wanted to share some other ideas so you could try other variations of this card, or maybe find something in your stash that would work. This is the new Gina K Designs Oceans of Love stamp set. I think this is a beautiful one. So many fun techniques you could do. Now that ocean image, you could stamp with the light gray ink and the black ink, and you can use this same window die to do the spotlight technique and just have color on those 4 rectangles that you pop up. Then you could take one of the palm trees and have that on top of your spotlight area and add one of the sentiments. So similar card design to what I did, just changing up the elements. You can also use the spotlight coloring technique with non-coloring or outline images. For example, here's the Gina K Design Radiant Roses bundle. This is a new bundle. It's so much fun. This embossing folder is for a 5x7 card, but you could also use it on a smaller card. And the stamp set, the dies, the stencils, and the embossing folder all line up together. So for the spotlight coloring technique, you could do some stenciling of the rose onto, say, a light colored cardstock. Then use the window frame die to cut it out so you have those 4 rectangles of color. Then you could run those rectangles of color through your embossing folder, which will give it even dimension. Then on your note card, your background, use the stencils for the rose with a super light ink. Then just assemble it as we did today. So many different products that you can use for this spotlight coloring technique. I really hope you'll give it a try. I hope you enjoyed this somewhat shorter share today, and if you are interested in what I used, it is linked below in my YouTube description. At the end, I will link to a couple other related videos with hopefully some more ideas that will inspire you. Have a great day, and I will see you again very soon.